So I want to talk about self-worth and the dynamics, the romantic dynamics that, we play with people that we're interested in, what we see as valuable, how we show up, what we think is a good relationship, and how we think we can play a part in that. So there are four roles that we play as little children as a way of receiving love, care, and attention from our parents or caretakers. And the first one is the caretaker. So the caretaker, this is the kid who sees that they can receive love and attention by being helpful, useful around the house with their siblings, taking care of other people's needs, not causing trouble, usually people pleasers as well. That's the caretaker. Then there's the rebel. This is usually the youngest child. This is the one that just breaks the rules. They understand that they can receive attention from their parents by doing something wrong. So they'll, break a glass and someone will be like, Tommy, what are you doing? And that's the way they receive attention, by just, causing a bit of trouble. And then there's the perfect one. This is the child that gets perfect grades, is always perfect in cleaning their room, being neat, being good at sports, whatever it is. They learn that they can get love and validation from their parents by being the perfect kid. And then the last one is the sickly one. This is the kid that learns from the first time that they got sick and their parents were fumbling over them, being like, are you okay? Receiving all that attention from being sick, that, well, all I need to do is just keep on getting sick. So the mind develops this subconscious reaction of always getting sick as a way for them to receive love and attention. So none of these four roles are good or bad. They're just coping mechanisms for young children. And we play these roles as young children, and then we choose another role when we're adults. But some people don't grow out of it. Some people keep on playing this role well into adulthood. So now that we've spoken about the four roles, I'm going to tell you what my role has been, and it still is to some extent, and that's the caretaker. The one that sees their value by taking care of other people, doing things for other people, being the person you can rely on, the responsible one, the helper. And I didn't know this was the role I was playing until obviously I studied to be a therapist and found out about it. But I'm going to tell you a story where it really, really shows up, and that's in my romantic life. And I'll tell you one specific story. So growing up, I had this best friend, a guy. We grew up together, our families know each other, so that's why we grew up together. And he was like the first crush I ever had. I found him to be really, kind and soft. He wasn't like a macho guy growing up. He was just like a really cool, kind kid. So he was like the biggest crush I had, basically from 6 years old going, onwards. Then when we were teenagers, now everyone's having hormones and boobs are coming out and guys are getting tall and, just becoming more grown up. I was like, okay, he's still cute. And I guess he was like, oh, she's still cute too. So we kind of started to have a thing, a fling. And it was cute and stuff, going for movies and things like that. But for me, at that point, I started to tell a story about who he was in my life. And I told myself this is a really great love story. But then going back to how we'd interact, because of my caretaker role, we would always talk about feelings and challenges in life and things like that, and he was able to open up to me and I was also able to open up to him, and we would just support each other. But as time went on, I realized that, well, that's pretty much where it ended. There was no commitment, there was no willingness to be deliberate and purposeful in terms of a relationship. It was just this friendship where everyone could be vulnerable and speak to each other and just help each other and just cope in life. And for me, that was a source of bonding and a safe space for me. But then as I grew older, way older, in my 30s, Yeah, so it took a while, guys. It was a while. I was like, wait, I'm looking for a relationship that's deliberate, on purpose. Like, relationships don't just happen. You have to be committed. You have to speak about direction. You kind of have to make things happen if you want like a proper relationship. So at that point, I was like, I don't know. Like, this guy, we've been on and off since I was 16. And yeah, we are friends, but we're not like friends who don't have like a romantic vibe going on. And even when we have that romantic vibe going on, there's never any commitment. So in my mind, I'm just like, I don't know if this is this romantic story that I've built this up to be. I think this is just a childhood crush, and yeah, it should end there. And I communicated this. But the thing is, guys, communicating your boundaries and communicating your needs doesn't mean that someone is going to respect them. This guy sold me dreams. And bear in mind, like, I took so long to be like, this is what I want. I want a relationship. I want something authentic. I want something deliberate, something driven, something with direction. I said it. And I was shit scared saying it, because the last thing I wanted was to scare someone away. But I was like, girl, you are getting old. I think it's time to grow some balls and look after your needs. So that's what I did. And he sold me dreams, okay? This was not the romantic story that I thought it was. I at the very least thought that we had respect for each other. Anyway, the moral of this story is that when you play the role of the caretaker, the one that is responsible, that can lift the weight, that can, help, you kind of neglect your own needs in favor of other people's. You put other people's needs ahead of yours. And whilst this is like a nice, virtuous thing to do, it's also toxic when you ignore your own needs, when it comes at the expense of your own needs. There's nothing wrong with having needs. What's wrong is constantly putting yourself last. So recently when I met someone again, this is later on after this catastrophic friendship disaster, I'm thinking to myself, no, I have grown up. I know who I am, the role I've been playing as a caretaker. I don't want that in my life. I'm gonna, do better. So I met someone new recently, and I'm thinking, well, this is going well. The only difference was that I found out earlier that this person wanted me to literally be their therapist without, being their therapist. And I was a bit triggered by it. Actually, I was very triggered by it. And I started to ask myself, why am I always attracting guys that need to be babied, that need validation from me, that need me to tell them they're awesome? Like, why am I always attracting those guys? And it's easy to go down that victim storyline, like go down that victim road. But then I stopped and I started to ask myself, no, what is it about these guys that I'm attracted to? I think that's the real question. It's so easy to blame other people and blame the universe and blame circumstances for the way things have turned out, for the kind of personality that you keep on attracting. But the truth is, a lesson will keep on repeating itself until you learn from it. So instead of asking, why am I attracting such people? A better question would be, why am I attracted to such people? What lesson do I have to learn? And for me, it's that, girl, yes, you can show up for other people and you can be helpful and you can be responsible and you can be the rock, but do not think that you don't have needs. So maybe you need to ask yourself, what are your needs? How do I want to be taken care of? How do I want to be shown love? How do I want to be respected?